the tape for this, our main event of the evening. We introduce the champion, Chris, the West Side Strangler Brennan. Let's get it on!
What's up, guys? Welcome back. We are going to go over all sorts of things today. UFC, what number is it?
283.
UFC 283. We're going to go over the whole entire power slap deal. And we are going to go over, talk about John Jones, my favorite fighter of all time.
Really?
No, not at all.
I was like,
my
what?
least favorite fighter of all time.
I was like, I thought GSP was your favorite
Yeah,
fighter.
he's definitely not my favorite fighter at all.
All right, let's start out with power slap. This is a big deal. Obviously, it's coming at a maybe
Ironic time.
Ironic time. Yeah, a tough time for Dana.
Yeah.
So I did a little bit of research on this. 3 rounds, they call it. A round is 1 strike each. They have a box that they have to stand in. There are rules about flinching or moving the shoulder or tucking the chin.
Yep.
They're very specific when it comes to the part of the hand that strikes you. Because my first thought was, well, dude, just get
Palm
that
strike.
heel in there
palm
and
strike. That's it.
you're done. But
Yeah.
they're super. There's judging on whether or not it's a clean slap, and then I guess it's got to be below the eye and above the chin is where the
Right.
strike has to hit.
The last part of the video that I watched was probably the most telling, which leads me to believe it's going to be just like MMA. It said, and in the end, it will go to judges just like an MMA or boxing judge scoring system.
Yeah,
And I was
yeah.
like, so we haven't figured out scoring for MMA because the scoring has sucked.
Right.
You're creating a new sport, and you have the opportunity to have some sort of different judging system, and that's what you're going to go with. My honest opinion, it's the dumbest thing ever, period. It is concussions waiting to happen. Nothing but concussions, nothing but head strikes. Like, tell me you don't give a shit about the fighters without telling me you don't give a shit about the fighters. You know, like for real. Like,
Yeah.
hey, we're going to come up with a plan. It's going to make me money, so I'm down for it. But we're going to come up with a plan where you just stand there and hit each other in the face, open-handed, as hard as you can, and then it's your turn. It's just,
I understand that there is skill involved, air quote skill involved with the strike, but there's no skill involved in taking that kind of punishment, right? I mean, there's
stupidity involved. There's like, how bad do you need money? You know, it is. I mean, is there skill? Sure, there's a certain way to turn your hand, right? There's a certain way to turn your hip.
okay.
But
That's in the strike. There's nothing.
Yeah.
You can't
you can't move.
You can't do anything, so
Right.
you just have to eat it and hope that you can hit him harder than he hits you.
So all the guys that get fight of the night for standing in the middle of the cage and
Right.
beating each other's brains out, you know, here is the even better version of tying your shoelaces together, standing in the middle of the cage and banging it out, right? Like it's just like, I forget what the thing was called, where the guys had to hold on to one thing and they could punch over the table at each other.
Yeah.
You know, that was like the stupidest thing ever. And this is no different. This is like, I'm sure everyone's going to watch it, but literally I've watched like 2 or 3 slaps, and now every time I see it, I just pass right by it online, because what is the point? You're literally just trying to watch a guy get knocked out by a slap that's literally giving him a concussion.
Sure,
you know?
sure.
And then the next. So like, yeah,
I saw
not
one
a fan.
video and the dude's face afterwards
I saw
it
that.
swole up and it sank and it looked like he had a stroke afterwards. And
yeah,
I mean,
it wasn't a stroke, but it
Yeah,
was
right.
His face was like,
it drooped and it swelled up and it looked like he had. I know he didn't, but
yeah, I'm not a fan. I
but-
won't be paying to watch it or watching it for free.
I can't imagine. I'm sure there are going to be people lining up to get in it, not to watch, to compete.
Sure, I'm
you
sure.
know, and I just
They can have tryouts.
yeah. And are there weight classes? There's got to be weight classes, right? I hadn't heard on that, but I can't imagine. A heavyweight.
Right.
I mean, put it in MMA terms. You know, you got Figueiredo that we're going to be talking about, and Ngannou standing across from each other.
Right.
There's. I know that's an extreme, but
I mean, it's possible if there's not weight classes. So yeah, I would imagine that there are, unless it's just all big guys.
Unreal. Well, it'll be interesting to see, and I'm real surprised. I'm surprised that Dana got into it, but I guess I'm not, because I'm sure he sees dollar signs.
Sure.
But I think I know how you're going to answer this question, but it bears. I think some people are going to say, well, wait a minute. 30 years ago, this is what people were saying about the UFC.
Right.
It's not going to go anywhere. It's not a real sport. This is people just standing in a cage and beating up on each other.
This is not that, though, because there's so many other options in MMA than standing there and getting punched in the face, right? There's takedowns, there's submissions, there's kicks, there's elbows, there's moving your head, avoiding it.
Right.
There's being Israel Adesanya and taking very little damage because you move your head a lot.
I think we know a fighter that's 8-0 and hasn't taken, 4 shots?
7-0, but yes.
Oh, 7-0.
Four strikes he's taken, yeah.
So obviously that can happen.
Right, yeah. So I don't see it becoming, I mean, it might be huge to watch for the beer drinking, weekend guy, but it's not really a sport.
I would agree. Talk about your thoughts on John Jones and him finally signing a fight.
God, you bring me all the negative stuff first.
Get you all warmed up here.
Yeah, I'm cool. Finally signed a fight. That's great. Francis Ngannou did not leave because he was scared of John Jones. That guy literally fought, everybody that was. He knocked Alistair Overeem's head completely off of his shoulders like a Pez machine. He's not afraid to fight John Jones. He's lost before. He's not afraid to lose.
Yeah.
So I think that was just people jumping on the attack. I don't know what I know that he wanted. He would have accepted the money, but I know he also wanted to box Tyson Fury, and there's a chance that happens. And Deontay Wilder. So he wanted the option to be able to do that, and that was not going to be allowed. And so I guess there's only one Conor McGregor, right? Because Conor got to step out and fight, and UFC made $25 million on Conor fighting
Floyd.
Yes.
How'd that happen?
Part of the deal for to let Conor do it. That was part of their deal.
I don't know how many people is that real common knowledge? Because I hadn't heard that before.
I think so. I think a lot of people know, but maybe not. But yeah, they made $25 million from Conor allowing him to fight outside his contract.
Really?
And fight Floyd. Now, that's what Ngannou wanted to do. That was one of the things that wasn't going to be in his contract. So, whatever. If he goes and fights somewhere else and makes money and beats lesser opponents, but still makes a ton of money, good on him. It's whatever. He won the championship. He's the title holder, vacated it, not afraid of John Jones. Now on to John Jones. He's big, man. He's big. He's up to 265, I think, 270. So he'll come down a little bit to fight. He is the Ronda Rousey for me. I hope to God somebody kicks his head off his shoulders. He's a shitty human. He's not a good guy, and continues to do. He hasn't been to Vegas in I don't know how long without getting arrested for either, hitting a lady, shooting his gun off in the street.
Didn't he get in a car accident and run from the scene? Was that in Vegas as well?
I don't know if that was in Vegas or not, but probably.
Okay.
He did do that though. Just all sorts of things. Just not a great dude. But I have to be honest, he's probably the best fighter. Period. Pound for pound, I still give it to Demetrius Johnson. DJ was a phenomenal fighter everywhere. John is as well, but I feel like people think he was getting bored in his division. I think he was getting caught. He was getting caught up to by the guys he was fighting, and that's why his last couple fights were so close. People think, that a few of them he might have lost by decision, even though he won.
Mm-hmm.
And when it came to being that close, it was either because he was partying, right? Like he told DC when he beat him, like, I beat you and I was on coke,
Yeah.
And so he was either partying and not taking it seriously, and it was getting caught up, and he needed something to spark his interest, a little more. So he moved up to heavyweight. Will he be fast? I don't know. Will he be as fast as he was? He didn't have knockout power as a 205er. He didn't one-punch knock out anybody. But will he have that as a heavyweight? I don't know. Will he have a chin at heavy for the heavyweights punching him in the face?
Right.
There's a lot to be seen. Cyril Gane is a better technical striker than him. John's a better fighter than him for sure. He out-wrestles him. Ngannou out-wrestled Cyril Gane.
Yep.
So John Jones will absolutely out-wrestle him if he wants to out-wrestle him.
When you break down what makes John Jones potentially the greatest, Dana calls him the greatest, Rogan calls him the greatest.
Sure.
I mean, you hear just about everybody is saying if you're gonna give it to one, what is it? Is it IQ? Is it striking ability? Is it wrestling? Is it just a complete package? What is it that makes him the
He
best?
definitely has a great fight IQ. His athleticism is next level. I mean, look at his whole family. He's got two brothers who play in the NFL.
That's right.
Super Bowl champion.
Yep.
Who played against each other, I believe, in the Super Bowl.
That sounds right.
Yeah, and John, multi-time UFC champion. Freaky athleticism. I'm sure. I don't. To be honest, I can't even speak on if he works hard. I'm sure he works hard. I don't know that he works as hard as somebody who's not as talented as he is.
You have to work hard to be where he. I mean,
Sure.
just to be there. There's an amount of work that has to go in there.
But there are a lot of guys that, let's take GSP for example, phenomenal athlete, phenomenal fighter, great champion, probably could not have drank and did coke and partied throughout his whole career and still been that guy.
Sure.
There are guys that can do that.
Yeah.
There are guys, I'll go ahead and say it right now. UFC 20, I believe, when Tito Ortiz beat Guy Mezger.
Okay.
I later that night was cruising down the hall and end up seeing Tito, someone else, and Kevin Randleman smoking weed and doing coke on a table in a room. And I'm walking away. I'm like, I am busting my ass to
Yeah.
be good.
Yeah.
And these are the greatest guys in the sport.
Yeah.
And here they are partying like that, and fighting and winning the way they are.
Yeah.
So there are guys that can do it. I'm not one of them. I doubt someone like GSP or DJ is one of them, but John Jones is one of them. And that I've given the argument, like, if he really took everything seriously, really trained hard, really didn't drink, didn't party, whatever, imagine how good he'd be. And there are people that say, they argue for him. Maybe he wouldn't be as good if he didn't. Maybe that's how he
what
relaxes.
makes-
Maybe that's how he whatever. It's like, whatever. I mean, if that's your argument, it is what it is. But yeah, I'm not a fan. But I think the heavyweight division is the weakest division in the UFC. It always has been.
Yeah.
And it'll now have most likely a champion that's going to be, I mean, without Ngannou there, because Ngannou finally had some really solid takedown defense and stuff for his last fight, 2 fights. Without him there, I don't know who comes in and beats John Jones right now. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
He has the only thing that the heavyweight division has to offer as far as John Jones getting beat is getting knocked out. One punch knockout power, right? Like
somebody catching
Derek Lewis could catch him and knock him out.
Absolutely.
Tuivasa could catch him and knock him out.
Cyril Gane probably could.
Cyril Gane probably could catch him and knock him out. Ngannou absolutely could catch him and knock him out. There are guys who could one punch knock him out. He's not going to fight. Like I said, he's got a smart fight IQ. If he stands and trades, I imagine he's going to find out real fast, and so will we, what his chin's like. But at the same time, that's really all he has to worry about in that division. Looking at it, no one's going to out-wrestle him. No one, I can't even think of anybody who's got great jiu-jitsu at the moment in the heavyweight division. So, yeah, I see him probably winning and sticking around for a while in that spot.
What does Stipe do against him?
I mean, does Stipe even want to fight? Like, why hasn't he fought either? Like, no one's fighting in the heavyweight division.
Yeah.
It's a very weak division. You got a bunch of guys recycling each other at the top.
Yeah. Sergey Pavlovich, Curtis Blades, obviously Stipe.
So Curtis Blades could present a problem because he could out wrestle John Jones. If he came out to wrestle, and not bang it out with him, and he might even be able to strike with him a little bit, because again, we don't know if John Jones has that one-punch knockout power yet. And that's what has hurt Curtis Blades in the past, is the knockout artist. So, he could present a problem. Do we have any Russian heavies?
Get back to that page. Hold on just a second.
Were the guys 205ers or heavy that just fought that had the calf kicks going on the inside? Oh, I think they're 205ers.
Alexander Volkov. And so Cyril gone. Number 2 is Stipe. Number 3 is Sergey Pavlovich. 4 is Curtis Blades. 5 is Ty. 6 is Tom Aspinall. Then you got Derek Lewis, Alexander Volkov, Rosenstrike, and Marcin Tibura.
Yeah.
That's your top 10.
Yeah, so there are guys that can be good fights for a round, maybe, but I don't know as far as beating him over the course of 5 rounds.
We watched Ivanov fight this weekend, and he's... Oh, no, that's not. That's somebody different. Never mind. You said you made a comment that John has gotten really big. We've talked a couple times on the podcast about Conor and how big he's gotten, and you've made the comment that he's going to gas out. It's not going to work. John has taken a lot longer to get a lot bigger.
He's a lot smarter.
Do you think that size is going to pose the same problem for him that it would for Conor?
I doubt it, only because number 1, he did take longer. Number 2, he doesn't look juiced at the gills like Conor does.
Yeah.
He did put on size. He put on some body fat too.
Yeah,
He put on.
He's not. He doesn't look like Ngannou.
Right.
He doesn't look like.
He
that.
doesn't look like John Jones at 205.
Yeah.
But at the same time, man, he's got to be training with guys right now, knowing what his cardio is like, knowing what it's like at a heavyweight, knowing if he needs to fight a certain way to maintain his conditioning throughout the 5-round fight. He's a smarter fighter, in my opinion. He doesn't gas normally. Conor gassed at 145, 155, and 170. So he's for sure going to gas at whatever he fights at, at the size he's at now. He just fights differently. He expends, even though it looks like he's relaxing, everything's into every punch.
It's going to be super interesting to see March 3rd. I think it was March 4th. I think Dana said that he signed an 8-fight contract.
That's what I heard. That's what I heard.
Which is nuts.
Yeah, and I know he wanted a lot of money to fight again and to move up. So to sign a new deal that big, I'd imagine it's got to be pretty big. I don't know why it hasn't been talked about, why it hasn't been discussed. You see in other sports, so-and-so signed a 5-year, $105 million deal.
Yeah.
So
that's super
but
interesting.
John's not bitching, right? Like he signed it. So holding out as long as he did, I'd imagine that he got, at least a lot of what he was looking for.
And I did hear.
Plus, they have Ngannou's money now to transfer over to John.
Oh, that's actually
they're missing a highly paid heavyweight.
Yeah, that's actually really interesting. I guess there's more money there. That is interesting. Also, that you mentioned. If insert, Tom Brady signs a new contract, you're going to hear exactly how much that is.
Right.
But you don't hear that when it comes to UFC athletes. That's all.
Not much.
That's all controlled by Dana, I'm assuming, right?
It'll be public after they fight, after his first fight. And someone might talk about it. I'm not sure. Someone might talk about it that knows, and it might get out. I'm not sure. But usually after a UFC fight, you can Google the payout, and it'll give you. Sometimes now it just gives you the sponsorship payout, which is garbage anyway. But they sometimes you can find the purses.
Well, I'm excited for it. I think, notwithstanding who he is, I think the world is pretty excited to see John Jones back in the cage. I think it's good for the sport. I think
Absolutely.
it's good for everything that is UFC right now.
It's good for me because usually I'm voting for people to win. I'm excited in watching someone win, and
I don't vote
him.
for
I'm hoping for that. Someone lands that bomb.
Bang. That's awesome. Let's jump into UFC 283. I
Let's
didn't even
go.
look to see.
Good card.
Do we know where this is? I didn't.
They're in Brazil.
Okay.
They are
Awesome.
in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, for basically Davison Figueiredo is the champ, and Moreno is fighting him. So Brandon's down there, been down there for a little while training now
That's awesome.
to get ready.
Well, first fight, Paul Craig versus Johnny Walker. Paul Craig's coming in number 9, Johnny Walker number 12. It's a light heavyweight bout. What do you see here?
One guy is way better on the feet, and one guy is way better on the ground. Paul Craig is a stud on the ground. He's a stud off his back. Problem is he takes a lot of damage to get his subs, and Johnny Walker gives a lot of damage.
Delivers a lot of damage.
Sure. So it depends on how fast Paul Craig can get into the ground. Johnny Walker, I believe, is coming off of a loss, or he just fought and won, but he had a loss right before that.
Let me pull it up. Johnny Walker's coming in at 19-7. He is coming off a win.
Over who?
Ian Kudaleba.
And then a loss
Before
right
that,
right?
a loss to Jamal Hill and a
Yes.
loss to Thiago Santos.
Right.
So he's 1-2 in his last 3 fights.
So I want to say, I would love to say Paul Craig submits him, but I don't know that he gets him down. How tall is he? 6'6"?
Johnny Walker's coming in at 6'5".
6'5", and Paul Craig is not 6'5", and he's a big guy though.
He's listed at 6'4". Maybe that's a generous 6'4".
Okay,
But
I mean maybe his, maybe that's why his legs are so long for triangles.
yeah.
I'm gonna gamble and go with Paul Craig by sub.
Okay, Paul's coming off of his last 6 fights. He's got a draw, 4 wins, and a loss.
Yep.
So I mean, he's doing fairly well also. And I think I saw this one. If I saw it right, I think that Johnny Walker's coming in minus 170 on this.
Yeah.
Is the
That's not bad. That's pretty close.
It's pretty close. Fight number 2. Number 4, Lauren Murphy against Jessica Andrade, women's flyweight bout. Jessica's a heavy favorite at this one, minus 450. It's a moderate favorite, minus 450. Lauren's coming in at plus 360.
Lauren's getting old. I think that's probably why they're and not old, but like old for the fight game. I still think that she presents enough of a problem that she might pull this off. I like her. She's from Houston. She trains with Crew Bob down there, same place that Derek Lewis trains out of.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm not a giant fan of Jessica Andrade. I know that Lauren Murphy's got a lot of height and reach advantage on her, and hopefully she uses it. Lauren Murphy, I think she just fought for the belt 1 or 2 fights ago. She's coming off a loss. It was for the belt, I believe.
Let me pull that up. And yeah, there was a significant height difference on this. Andrade is 5'1", Lauren Murphy's coming at 5'5", I believe.
Okay.
So yeah, we'll see a little bit of reach there. Let me see if I can pull up the last fight.
Yeah, it's only 4 inches, but if you think about it, it's like me fighting a guy that's 6 foot, right?
So
it's a pretty decent size advantage.
Lauren Murphy's lost 1 out of her last 7 fights,
And it was for the belt.
Yeah, it was somebody named Shevchenko.
Right.
Maybe
What round?
4.
Okay.
She beat Misha Tate. She
Yep.
beat Joanne Wood. Shakavara. I mean, she's got a good list of outside of Shevchenko, which she lasted 4 rounds on, which is probably a moral victory in and of itself.
Right.
She's
Can you
doing
check
pretty
out?
good.
Can you check out Jessica Andrade real quick?
Absolutely. She's coming off 2 wins. Cynthia Calvillo.
So 3-3 in her last 6, though, right?
Correct.
Cynthia Calvillo is a girl that trains at Alpha Male. Who was before that?
Shevchenko.
A loss.
Correct.
So that's both of their last losses. How'd she lose to her?
Elbows in the second.
I'm telling you, Lauren Murphy. I'm going with it.
And then you look at Andrade. She's, you said 3 of 6. the who's who of who she lost to. Wei Li,
Rose.
and Valentina.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah, Rose came after she beat Rose, actually. Rose went for a Kimura on the feet, and she picked her up and dropped her on her head and knocked her out.
oh, was that was way back, right?
It was a while back.
Yeah. So you're
I'm
going
sticking to my guns. I'm going Murphy.
Lauren Murphy. Awesome.
Texas.
Third fight. This is going to be a fun one. Gilbert Burns versus Neil Magny, number 5 versus 12. Burns is a heavy favorite on this one, but
Yeah.
you got to like what Magny brings. He seems like he's a solid fighter.
I do. I like Magny a lot. He's tough. He's very good, but I think that Gilbert Burns, I think he's coming off only a loss to Chimaev.
Yep.
It was his last fight,
pull
a
that up.
5-rounder, and it was a damn close fight. And then
Such a good fight,
great
man.
fight. Great fight. It was the test for Chimaev. Everyone got to find out that he was the real deal.
That could have been a fight of the year candidate.
Yeah. And then he won his fight before that, and then the fight before that he lost for the belt, I believe, against Usman.
That's correct.
And so the caliber of the guys that he's been fighting,
Well,
he's-
and the one that he did win was Wonder Boy in between
Right.
that. So
right. Yeah, I think he beats No Magny. I think he beats No Magny. I like him. I like Neil, but
Yeah.
I think Gilbert Burns his jiu-jitsu level is a little bit, well, not a little bit, a lot of bit better than Magny. I feel like he gets it to the ground.
I'm looking at Magny's wins. He's got Rodriguez was his last fight in November. So
Yeah. He was the underdog in that fight.
that was November 5th, 2022. I mean, that was 2 months ago.
Yeah, it wasn't long.
Holy cow. Rachmanov, he lost to. He beat Max Griffin. He beat Jeff Neal. Lost to Michael Chiesa. Beat Robbie Lawler. It's lost to, going down a little bit, lost to Ponzinibbio. So he's not afraid to fight people. He's 27-9, and he's got a long resume of solid fighters under him.
Yeah, there's a reason why Gilbert Burns is a heavy favorite in that fight,
Yeah.
and it's just because he should be. Is there a chance Magny could win? Sure, but
Yeah.
I believe that Gilbert Burns pulls that off.
Brings us to the first of 2 title weight fights. I know you've got feelings about this one and encouragement.
Yeah.
Davison Figueiredo versus the interim champion Brandon Moreno.
So I'm conflicted on this. I think Brandon Moreno should win.
Really?
So this is how it goes. First time they fought, Brandon took it on short notice, like a week, and went to a draw. Second time they fought, he rear naked choked Figueiredo, ran him over. Third time they fought, Figueiredo won a very close decision. Now, this is the 4th time. Brandon's fighting him in Brazil. But the biggest thing going against Brandon Moreno in this fight is he went from training with James Krause at
Yep.
Glory MMA
Yep.
to training by himself with all of his guys in Vegas to somehow,
Is it the PI?
to somehow Safe from Florida slid in to the picture and is training with him. A couple guys that I spoke to that know Brandon had said that they just needed someone with experience
Okay.
fighting in the UFC, cornering in the UFC. I think he's taken a huge step down coach-wise. Will he need it? I don't know. But I think, James brings a lot of skill to the room, a lot of skill to his coaching. I don't think Safe has the skills the teaching skills that James does, that he presents, but he will yell at you in the corner a lot, and he'll yell at you in the room a lot, and he'll tell you that you're lucky to be in his gym a lot. But I don't know that he really his top guy I think is Jeff Neal, and he didn't start there, and now here he is with Brandon Moreno after someone like Uriah Hall went there. Like, he's got a lot of guys that have come there after being good.
Yeah.
Same thing with James. A lot of guys came to him already good, but I just feel like if Brandon wins, and I hope that he does, it's not going to be based on his coaching.
What does that do to a fighter to go through 3 coaches in, 3 months? In a 3-month window, he's had 3 different coaches. What does that do to a fighter?
I mean, not even 3. So he travels. Fortunately for him, he makes money. Comes from no money, right? Because he's from Tijuana. He travels with his main coach. His main coach travels with him. He's got 2 buddies, training partners that were both in the UFC that travel with him. So that, is good. He has basically what he needs is training partners, and a little bit of guidance, I'm sure, from somebody on the grappling side of things and the MMA side of things.
So he's got stability with his main coach and his partners.
Yeah, they'd been through a lot. I spoke to a couple guys on his team that I'm friends with, and they just said there's been too many changes. They're going to stay in Vegas. We're going to stay in Vegas and train here. Yep. And I was like, cool, right on. And so that's what they were doing. And then the next, like a week later, I see a picture of Safe in the room with him, and I was like, how did that happen? And apparently it was his manager, Jason House, kind of put it together for him. And they probably needed, probably felt like they needed some sort of coaching. And Jason, was able to put it together. And like I've said, even on the last podcast with Tim, so many people got affected by James Krause's deal.
Yes.
Falling, whatever took place it affected a lot of people. And it just happened to affect the reigning flyweight champion of the world.
I've actually thought about that a lot, how, our decisions impact more than just what's happening around us. It impacts a lot of people.
No question.
So Figueiredo, his last 3 fights obviously are Brandon Moreno. Yep. When you look at Moreno, he's got Kai Kara-France in between there.
Right.
Any advantage one way or another? Is it nice to have a tune-up fight? I don't want to say a tune-up fight. Kai Kara-France, that's disrespecting him. He's a much better fighter than that. But is it nice to get a break and do something different and then come back?
I'm sure it was. And not only that, he fought in between. Davidson Figueiredo has not fought since he fought Brandon in what year was that? End of 2021, or was it in 2022?
January 2022.
Okay, so it's been a year.
Yeah.
And that he's fought. Brandon got to fight in between there. He was trying to fight Davidson at the time, and then Figueiredo got hurt or something happened, and the fight didn't take place. So Brandon went on to fight somebody else for the interim title. Right, fought him for the interim title, finished with a body shot, and then that James Krause called for right before the fight, or right before in between rounds.
Okay.
He said, "Let me see that left kick some more." Bang, left kick, fight's over.
Drop him.
But so he's not rusty, right? He didn't take a year off. He wasn't injured. So he does have some things stacked against him as far as the coaches changing, as far as fighting in Brazil against Davidson Figueiredo. That's like fighting in
Cyril Gane
Ireland
in
against Connor. Yeah, it's Cyril Gane in France. Yeah, like you're definitely gone to his hometown to do it. And I really, man, I love Brandon. He is a great dude. I really hope he pulls it off.
I'll be pulling for him.
My money's on him.
That's awesome. So
all $0 of it.
Well, that brings us then to the main events. This is for the light heavyweight title that was vacated by Yuri Prochazka.
Yep.
And we're looking at Glover Teixeira versus Jamal Hill. Jamal Hill is ranked 7th.
Yeah, he's jumping, right?
Huge jump. Glover's number 2.
I think some of the guys at 4, 5, and 6 may be busy, may have just fought, maybe lined up already. But Jamal Hill's been on a bit of a run, and Glover was trying to fight Yuri. Yuri got hurt bad enough to where he vacated the title.
Stand-up move on Yuri. Hey, I can't fight. I mean, it feels like it. I don't know what the actual timeline was, but it almost felt like, hey, the next day I got hurt, title's out.
It was right away. So I'm not sure what his injury even is, but I know that that it was bad enough for him to do that. And then right away they made, this matchup for Glover to fight again for the belt and against Jamal Hill. This is going to be a tough fight for Glover.
So it's interesting. Glover's number 2. Magomed Ankalaev is number 3. Jan Blachowicz is 4. Ratchik,
I think. Ratchik
is 5. And then Anthony Smith is 6. And then Jamal Hill.
Yeah.
Out of all those people, do you feel like Jamal Hill was the one that deserved?
He's one of the guys I'd rather fight over a couple of the guys at the top, like Ankalaev, and who just beat him?
I have to look that up.
He came back and won the fight. He was getting destroyed legs. And he came back and won.
Yeah, 3, 4, and 5.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, I think it'll be a good fight. It's a tough matchup for both of them. If Glover gets him to the ground, he's in a lot of trouble. If he can't, he's in a lot of trouble.
Say that one more time. If Glover
gets Jamal Hill to the ground,
yes.
Jamal Hill's in a lot of trouble.
Okay.
If he cannot get him to the ground, he is personally
Glover
himself
is in a lot of trouble.
Yes.
Does Jamal Hill have solid? Can he one punch knockout?
He can one kick, one knee, one punch knockout.
Okay.
He's very good. What's his streak right now?
He's 11-1. I just clicked on Glover because I wanted to see. The dude's 43.
Yeah,
that's just.
He was already the oldest champ.
Yeah. And that was how long ago? 2 years ago? A year ago?
A year maybe.
You want to know about Jamal Hill? He's coming on a 3-fight win streak. Johnny Walker, Thiago Santos.
Who was his loss?
Paul Craig.
And then how many before that?
All of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You've got 9 fights there, but one of them is a no contest.
Okay, so 8 wins,
no
1
contest,
loss, 3 more wins.
Yep.
So that's a tough fight. That's a tough fight for
Glover.
Yeah, and you look at that guy's record, and he's number 7 right now. That kind of tells you about that division. That's a tough division with a guy with those kind of wins.
Yeah.
Sitting at number 7.
Jamal Hill looks like he's got some personality. Are we going to see some talking? Are we going to see some dancing and some showboating in the ring there, or in the cage?
He's exciting.
So if Glover gets it to the ground, you're giving it. You think he's got it?
I do.
If not, I think Jamal Hill will do it. So the question is,
Glover has striking, but not the kind of striking that Jamal Hill has.
What kind of striking defense does Glover have? Can he frame up and get away from that?
Not for 5 rounds. Like he has to get him to the ground to win. He can't defend for 5 rounds, and even if he did, he's definitely going to lose a decision. If it stays on the feet for 5 rounds, which I don't think is possible, he does not win the decision.
Awesome. Well, looking forward to it. I will definitely be paying attention to this one. It should be a good fight.
Awesome. We'll see you guys afterwards for the recap.
It is all over, just like that.